Hello and welcome. I am Edgar Kingmaker, and today I am going to go over a very important subject with you: reference sheets. That's right. I am someone who has seen a lot of reference sheets, and I've gone through the litany of ones that are great and ones that are not so great. So, I am putting together this video in order to teach commissioners and artists alike what is incredibly important in the aspects of a good reference sheet. This is so that you can present your reference sheets to artists who, you want your character to be drawn by, and you want your character to be drawn accurately. And, because it is your character, you want it to be seen as the same with each image. You don't, unless, of course, you have some sort of amorphous creature that takes on different personalities and different situations. But that we'll get to that sort of thing later in a moment. Anyway, this is for your static character sheet. So um, let's begin. I have some very important points to go over. And as I said, I do receive a lot of reference sheets. This is because I often host freebies. I give away a lot of art. So, of course, I receive a lot of characters, a lot of character references. Just in my most recent one, there were about 50 entries, let's say, give or take. Give or take. Now, I was letting people submit multiple characters, though, so that might be a little on me. Anyway, off topic. Let's see. So, first and most important point of a reference sheet is that it be PNG. And I cannot stress this enough. When you are an artist and you finish up your reference sheet for character, you do not want to save it as JPEG. Why do you not want to save it as JPEG? Well, because JPEG creates all these fuzzy artifacts on the picture. And whenever another artist uses the eyedropper tool, they can pick up either the color that you put down or something way off base. Mostly because the the JPEG, when it creates artifacts, it doesn't always get everything quite right. Yes, it is reduced in size for internet availability, but so is the PNG. The PNG is a lossless format. Now, if you are commissioning a reference sheet, you must make sure that the reference sheet you get is in PNG. Now, what is also important to note is that when you submit it to the website that you are linking people from, you have to make sure that it also registers it as a PNG. Now, if this is for Affinity, it is important to make sure that you reduce the size of the image down to 1280 by whatever, maximum with 1280, or resubmit it on top of itself in order to get a larger file size on there. Either way, you want to make sure that it does not alter the upload, because when it alters the upload, then it gives you a JPEG instead of a PNG, and people like me become very sad. See, the next point that I want to have, that I want to be sure that you guys hear, is that there is a comprehensive color palette on your reference sheet. Now, what I mean by a comprehensive color palette is not just, have a couple of circles sitting around and be like, yeah, just figure that out. No, I want you to make sure that when you put those circles there, you also go, oh, this one is for skin, and this one is for fur, and this one's the belly. You know, you want to make sure that they're labeled, because sometimes on your reference it's not always incredibly clear. But if you ensure that the uh, palette is labeled, possibly even boxed in to make it even easier, then you know it's a lot easier for an artist like myself to get a good idea of what your colors are. See, can you read that? I can. Basically, you put your fur here, you put your base color eyes here, and you put your skin color here, and that is easy to get a base off of. And by the way, speaking of eye color, every artist does eyes differently. Eyes are a very uh, eyes are pretty. Eyes are very pretty. And some artists, they make simple black dots. Some of them do a simple color. Some of them, like me, get very in depth and involved in how they do eyes. What you want is your base eye color. Now, base eye color means not the shiny part, not the dark part, but like the middle tone of how your eyes are to be shown. So if you hand it to an artist like me and I go, oh, this is the base color, I can take that base color and then I can do my magic with that base color. So we've gone over color palette. Very important to have a comprehensive color palette, because if you don't have a color palette, some of your colors might run together, or you might have sections of your character that are small and they're not able to get the colors from. Oh, and make sure that when you do your color palette, and this is a very important point, that you include skin tone if your character is going to have any sort of parts that may show in some pictures that don't really show on your reference sheet, that you include the colors for those parts. Either like fleshy bits or your tongue. Like if your character's mouth isn't open on the reference sheet, there still might be pictures where your character's mouth is going to end up open. So you want to make sure to have your tongue color defined. And if your blood or any other bodily fluids are going to be any color other than the natural colors, then you would want to make sure to include those as well. Okay, so continuing on to my next point. If your character has atypical information, and this sort of goes back to the blood color and other sort of different colors, you want to make sure to include that on your information sheet, your reference sheet. Uh, and by atypical information, I mean atypical for characters, not atypical for your character's species. If your character is a part of a species where they all have uh, giant eyes on their shoulders that glow, and your reference sheet shows that your character has an eye on their shoulder, but it doesn't really show the glowing because it only glows at night, or it only glows when enemies are near, that sort of thing. You want to include that information, even though every member of the species has that. And, it's a custom species that the artist should go read about. Not every artist is going to want to go read about the information that you've written over 50 paragraphs to find out about eyes that glow. All of your information when you send a character sheet should be on the character sheet. Any information that is important to your character, like the Gronk species, which is a species of TWV. I have two Gronk character sheets that I've drawn, Koten and Nietlana. And in both of them, I note that there are no pupils or irises, and their eyes are pure white. that is a Gronk trait, so all members of the species share that trait, but that is atypical for characters in general. So I need to include that information. Like another example, and I'll make this quick. Say your character has a big gemstone on their chest and it sees into the night sky and it's always swirling in different patterns. You want to include that information. You don't just want to draw a black gem with some spots in that, because artists will just try to replicate the black gem with the white spots. They're not going to realize that that's the night sky. Okay, and character build is next up. Now, by character build, I mean the body type. Like, if your character is muscular, you want to make sure they appear muscular. If they're feminine, you want to make sure they appear feminine. If you are not able to achieve that aspect with drawing, you want to make sure to write it on the character sheet. Like, if your skill level is about, you can make a torso and a head, then you want to make sure that you point to that torso and you go, oh, he is a heavy set bodybuilder. And you want to make sure that this build is only described in about four words, because you don't really need more than that to describe body type, really. Like, if you were to say petite but curvy, you know, that gives me a mental image of what a character looks like. Really, you don't need much more than that. And yes, one important point that I forgot to write down ahead of time. So you want to make sure that your character reference sheet is not shaded. That is incredibly important. Why is that important? Well, for the same sort of reason as why we need PNG and not JPEG. And that's because you want your colors to be accurate. You always want your colors to be accurate, because if your character's colors, are guesswork on the artist's part, you could have 4 or 5 different pictures from different artists that the character palette doesn't quite always match up. And the important part of always having your character palette match up is that people will recognize it as your character and not some sort of slightly different knockoff character. And that's also why you need build, why you need the comprehensive color palette, why you need all of this. Because you want to make sure that your character is always easily recognizable, not only by you, but by people who enjoy your character or follow your character. Okay, moving on. Yep, I got more. So, this is more for artists, but also for people who are commissioning a reference sheet from other artists. The head of your character, it is always important to get a front and a side view. Why? Because with anthropomorphic characters in particular, there are nuances that are different in most characters. Like canines, they don't always have their muzzles straight out. Some of them have them tilted down. Some of them actually have them tilted up a little bit. You know, and especially with mythological creatures like dragons, you really need to make sure that all of the specific details of your character are represented especially in a profile or side view and a head-on front view, to ensure that all the details are included and they can see if the face is symmetrical or asymmetrical. Now, there is a similar thing with the body. You want the front of the body and the back of the body. You don't just want to present one side, because images are not always static. You're not always going to be seeing just the front of your character. You may see dynamic poses where parts of the back will show or all of the back will show. You need a front and back of the body in your image, and you need to ensure that the markings are actually cohesive, that they continue correctly. I have come across quite a few character reference sheets where it'll look like the character's um, markings have actually been divided down the middle, because you'll see like they'll continue down from the shoulder blades, hit the side of the waist, and then suddenly completely disappear and show up somewhere around the hip. And that's not good. Okay? That will actually, if an artist get that, they will either make up their own design for your markings, or they're gonna do what I would do and just make this big long stopping line, because your character looks like they came out of a molded plastic or plastic mold, and they need their fleshing removed to get the markings correct. All right, so next, character statistics. This Most of the statistics are included with a good image, but if the image isn't that informational, then you need to include body type, which we went over before, and height. Height is actually an incredibly important statistic, because if your character is going to show up in an image with more than one character in the picture, so not alone, and let's face it, a lot of pictures that we want are not just of our character, right? We want our friends, we want our significant others, we want people to be interacting with our characters. So, in order to properly obtain an image where somebody is interacting with us, we need to include our height. Why do we need to include our height? Well, if your character is 6 foot, my character is 4'11", and somebody draws them both at the same height, there's going to be an issue. At least, I would raise an issue if I were a commissioner and somebody did that. If your character is 8'2" and my character is 5 foot, anyway, then you see what I mean. The one character needs to be much taller than the other. And even if their body proportions are in the same sort of line as somebody who is 6 foot, you want to include if they are taller than that, so that the artist knows to just draw them like the same size, but much more freakishly huge. Okay, continuing on. If you intend to get adult work, make sure you have an adult reference sheet. If you intend to get safe work, make sure you have a safe reference sheet. Safe reference sheets are either Barbie, which is where they're nude but nothing shows, or they have like sensor dots or like little pasties over the adult information, which is, nipply bits, vaginas, penises, buttholes. Anyway, you want to make sure that any information that would be rated mature or not safe for work, and we're talking about an average office space work. We're not talking about the porn shop. All right, not safe for work. Anything that would be not safe for work will be in an adult reference, because if you want adult commissions, you need an adult reference sheet. on an adult reference sheet, you want to include all of the adult information. You do not want to leave anything to chance. Okay? So, make sure you have two different versions of your character sheet if you intend to get art that is both safe or adult. Moving on. Don't create a reference sheet that's just chibi. There's a huge reason for this. Chibi, there's about 25 different types of chibi art, and they're almost always specific to the artist. So when you have a reference sheet that's just chibi and you request something that is not chibi, you actually create a bit of an issue because you eliminated a lot of the important information. And if you do have a chibi reference and you want something that's chibi, you sort of force their hand in a very unique format. You see, chibi, there's ultra stylized, there's ultra simplified, there's a huge spectrum in between, and you don't ever want to stick an artist into one specific area. So, don't only chibi. Feel free to add a little chibi avatar at the bottom side, or if you do only have a chibi, ensure that you have a sort of stick frame off to the side with information on it like build, how muscular they are, that sort of thing. You want to ensure that if all you have available is a chibi reference, that you include the information for the non-chibi if you ask for a non-chibi art piece. Whew. Okay. And lastly, personality. I do not mean the like and dislike area because like and dislike has always seemed a little unnecessary to me. It's like you have already made your request of what you want. Adding likes and dislikes doesn't really make a difference to me because I'm just going to draw what you just asked for, and that's that. I know that there are some artists that are more willing to wing things and they'll just be like, give me your reference, and then they'll just figure it out from there. But most art, well, I am not like that. I'm more, give me a little bit of information and your character sheet. Like, you want to be playing in the snow. Okay, I know that you like playing in the snow. I already know that. I don't need the likes and dislikes anymore. What I mean by personality right here is that is your character happy most of the time? No. Is your character happy most of the time? Is your character a sad person? Are they sort of, are they angry at the world? Are they a jerk with a heart of gold? Are they tsundere? Include a personality archetype. And the main reason for this is because personality can be very easily conveyed in poses. Like, if you had a character who was sad most of the time and pretty sulky, you can bet that, they'll be hunched over a little bit. If you had somebody who was go for it and ready for the world, then, pose where they're standing up with their hands on their hips and ready for the day, that would be more appropriate. So include your character's personality on the sheet, not in the description. You always want all of this information on the sheet. Alright, so I hope all that information helped you. My last piece of advice really is if you can't draw or you have a character that doesn't have reference, but you have pictures of them already, don't link an artist to the folder of pictures. No, because artists don't generally like looking through and picking out a whole bunch of different pictures to figure out what parts really go for the character. No. What you want is that if you really like the character's head in one picture, you like the way the character's tail looks in another picture, there's more to butt. And you really like how your character's like body and arms look in another picture, or the way they glow or whatever. Then you want to create a scrapbook image. You want to put the pictures together on one piece because you already got these pictures. These pictures belong to you. The other artist did them. You have them. Make sure that you reference each artist in the description, but put all the pictures with the elements you enjoy into one image. And make sure to write all over it. All right? Don't be afraid to write on top of them. Be like, I like the hair on this one, and I like the tail over here, and over here I enjoy my butt. All right. Or like if you have an image with feet and you want those feet, but you want them on the body from another picture, and you want the tail from another, and you want the hairstyle of another, don't link an artist for pictures. Throw them all together, write all over it, and if you have certain colors that you really like from them, throw them up in the middle. Just make your own color palette there, and make sure to write all the important information right there. You know, as if you were making a regular reference sheet. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. It wasn't scripted, and I was just babbling most of the time. But I covered information that I think is actually important. So if you agree with me, hit the like button. If you disagree with me, comment about it. And if you have any questions for me, you can get on my Fur Affinity and you can note me. You can talk to me. I'm open to talking to people. And like I said, I host free art all the time. So if you're looking to have your character drawn in one way or another, and you either have a reference or you have one of these cut and paste references here, then you can totally get on my page over on Fur Affinity, which I'll link down below. And you can hit whatever raffle is going on at the moment. Alright. My next video will hopefully probably be me putting all of these into practice. And I'll talk about all these as I put them into practice, as I create a new reference sheet. Alright, thank you for watching, and goodbye.